Ryan, this is a family table. You can sit near the bathrooms, my sister-in-law said with a smirk, laughter bubbling from her lips as the guests glanced over and snickered. The waiter handed me a $22,000 bill. I took a slow sip of my bourbon and smiled. None of them knew who would be footing the bill tonight. My name is Ryan Cooing, and I was paying for a party where one person desperately wanted me to feel like I didn't belong. Melissa. She never liked me, not even a little. Honestly, I don't think she liked her own sister, Jenna, either, but that never stopped her from acting like she ran the family. She talked over everyone, made decisions no one asked for, and somehow always saw herself as the center of attention. Maybe that's why she hated me, because Eleanor actually liked me. Eleanor, my mother-in-law, was one of the few in Jenna's family who made me feel welcome from day one. She didn't care that I wasn't blood. I was her daughter's husband, and to her, that meant I mattered. Melissa couldn't stand it. She had a problem with men, not in a strong independent woman kind of way, more like a bitter, mean-spirited resentment that bled into everything she did. Her marriage had gone up in flames 3 years ago, and ever since, she seemed dead set on making sure no man around her felt comfortable, especially me. So when she strolled over in her designer dress, wearing that smug expression, I already knew it wasn't going to end well. Ryan, we need to talk, she said. I exhaled through my nose and gave my bourbon a lazy swirl. Melissa, I really don't think we do. Oh, but we do. She placed her perfectly manicured hand on my arm like she was about to share a secret. It's about the seating, tiny change. I looked up. What change? She gave me that fake, sugary smile. You'll be at table 14 instead of the main one. It just makes more sense. I blinked. Table 14? The one by the bathrooms? She chuckled. Don't make it sound so bad. It's still a good seat. I set my drink down. Melissa, I planned this party. I paid for this party. And now I'm not sitting with my own wife? She tilted her head and gave me a satisfied smile. Ryan, it's a family table. I gave a dry laugh. I'm married to Jenna. Exactly, she said. Jenna is family. You're here. I stared at her. Eleanor signed off on this? That caught her off guard for just a second. Eleanor's too busy enjoying herself to worry about seating charts, she replied smoothly. So I handled it. You understand. Oh, I understood just fine. Before I could respond, a waiter hesitated beside me. Mr. Cooing, just confirming the extras, truffle risotto, caviar tasting, vintage de Perignon. Mrs. Melissa said you approved it. I turned my head slowly enough to feel my neck crack. I did what? Melissa took a sip of champagne, completely unfazed. Oh, relax, it's a celebration. You wouldn't want Eleanor to feel limited, would you? I stared at her. This wasn't about food, or seating, or planning. This was about control, her needing to remind me I was just a guest in her kingdom. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and tapped the restaurant tab. No limits, let her think she was winning. You know what? I said, locking eyes with her. You're right. She smiled wider. Finally, you're seeing sense. I smiled back. Go crazy, Melissa. I patted her shoulder. Order whatever you want. She narrowed her eyes. What are you playing at? I downed the rest of my bourbon and set the glass down. Nothing. Then I walked away. Melissa thought she'd won. By the end of the night, she'd be the one paying for it. I felt her eyes boring into my back as I left. She was probably already planning some petty move to put me in my place. Let her try. I wasn't playing defense anymore. I headed straight for Jenna and Eleanor near the head table. Eleanor's face lit up the second she saw me. Ryan, darling, come here. She took my hand with a warm squeeze. I was just telling Jenna how perfect everything is. You really outdid yourself. I smiled, tension in my chest easing. Anything for you, Eleanor. Jenna looked at me, concern flickering across her face. Where've you been? You look like he's been dealing with Melissa. Eleanor finished with a knowing eye roll. Jenna groaned. What did she do now? I forced a smile. Nothing I can't handle. Eleanor sighed, rubbing her temples. She actually told me I should sit at the second table because the younger generation should have the spotlight. Jenna's mouth fell open. She what? I chuckled. Apparently, I'm assigned to table 14, near the bathrooms. Jenna's expression darkened. Oh no. Don't worry, I said. Melissa thinks she's directing the show. Let's see how she reacts when the spotlight turns. Right on cue, Melissa's voice rang out through the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? She stood at the front, champagne in hand, gesturing like she owned the room. She always knew how to take the stage, but tonight, she was about to choke on it. I just want to take a moment to celebrate our wonderful mother, Eleanor, she said, smiling sweetly like she hadn't spent the last hour treating me like dirt. She's the heart and soul of this family, and we are so blessed to be here. Polite applause followed. I clapped, watching her like a hunter watches prey. Melissa turned, grin widening. And of course, none of this would have been possible without my dear sister Jenna, she added, completely ignoring me. Jenna worked so hard to make this night perfect. A few heads turned in my direction. The shift had begun. Eleanor sat taller. Melissa, she said, her voice sharp. Ryan planned and paid for this event. Melissa let out a soft laugh, pretending not to hear. And of course, we all chipped in here and there to make it magical. I smiled to myself. Oh, this was going to be fun. The same waiter from earlier stepped onto the stage, a sleek black folder in hand. He gently tapped Melissa on the shoulder and leaned in. She frowned. What? The waiter glanced in my direction. The bill, ma'am, Mr. Cooing instructed us to deliver it directly to the person who placed the additional orders. Melissa's smile faltered. Excuse me? He opened the folder politely. The total, including the truffle risotto, caviar tasting, and vintage champagne, comes to $22,489. A hush fell over the room. A fork clattered to the floor somewhere in the back. Melissa's face drained of color. That's impossible. The waiter remained calm. Would you like to place it all on one card or split the payment? I folded my arms, tilting my head. Yeah, Melissa, how would you like to pay? She whirled toward me, nostrils flaring. You're unbelievable. I raised a finger. Language, family event, remember? Eleanor's brows furrowed. Ryan, what's happening? I gave her a calm smile. Melissa decided to splurge tonight, ordered the finest things on the menu without asking me. Then I turned to my sister-in-law, voice like silk. And since she insists on acting like she's in charge, I figured she'd want to handle the bill, too. Melissa's hands were trembling. I'm not paying that. This is your event. I shrugged. You told me to relax, to let the family enjoy themselves. I just took your advice. The waiter cleared his throat. Ma'am, if you can't pay, we'll have to involve management. If it remains unresolved, the next step is. Before he could finish, a deep voice rang out. What's going on here? Every head turned. Near the entrance stood a man in a tailored suit, arms crossed, fury in his eyes. Melissa froze. David? She said, stunned. What are you doing here? David, her ex-husband, strode forward, his gaze locked onto her like a guided missile. My friend owns this place. He called me when someone started racking up a tab they clearly couldn't pay. A ripple of whispers swept through the crowd. Melissa's hands balled into fists. I don't have time for this, David. He laughed, short and sharp. You never had time for anything but yourself. He turned to Eleanor. Sorry to interrupt, but I think your guests deserve to know the truth. Melissa's voice turned icy. Don't you dare. David didn't even look at her. Melissa has made a career out of living off other people, me, her parents, anyone gullible enough to foot her bills. She doesn't give, she drains, and when people finally say enough, she turns cruel. The crowd stirred again. David, stop, she hissed. But he didn't. She spent our whole marriage treating me and everyone like we were beneath her, and now she's pulling the same stunt on Ryan. He shook his head. Classic Melissa. Her eyes burned with rage. You don't know what you're talking about. David smirked. Oh, but I do. That's when security entered. Excuse me, ma'am, one of the guards said. We've been told there's a serious billing issue. Melissa's voice broke. This is a mistake. The guard's tone was firm. Would you prefer to handle this privately, or shall we call the authorities? Silence. Melissa scanned the room, searching for someone, anyone, to save her. No one moved, not Eleanor, not Jenna, and certainly not me. I just stood still, watching the self-proclaimed queen of the family cornered by her own arrogance. The waiter still held the bill, $22,489. The number seemed to glow. Melissa's voice cracked. This can't be real. The lead guard raised an eyebrow. Are you saying you didn't place these orders? Melissa's gaze darted around the room, begging silently. She looked to Jenna, Eleanor, even David. Still, no one moved. Well, the guard asked again. She let out a strained laugh. Of course I ordered them. It's a celebration. I just assumed Ryan, being the host, would. I cut in, my voice like ice. Would pay while you treated me like dirt? The crowd murmured. Melissa snapped. Don't act like some victim, Ryan. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Oh, I'm not the victim here, but you're about to be. That's when the banquet hall doors burst open and 2 police officers stepped in. Phones came out, the whispering grew louder. This wasn't just a family drama anymore, this was going viral. Who's in charge here? One of the officers asked. The venue manager, clipboard in hand, gestured toward me. Mr. Cooing. The officer turned to me. Sir, we received a report about an unpaid luxury tab. Given the amount and the situation, the venue requested our immediate presence. Melissa's voice trembled. You called the police? I shook my head. I didn't. The venue has protocols for this kind of fraud. David crossed his arms again, smug. Wow, Melissa, you really outdid yourself. She spun toward him. You don't belong here. He just laughed. I've waited years to see you face consequences. I'm not missing it. The officer stepped forward. Ma'am, either you pay the bill or we escort you out for fraud. A collective gasp swept through the room. Melissa's mouth hung open. This is dinner, not a crime. The officer pulled out his notepad. Ordering luxury items under someone else's name without approval is defrauding a business. Melissa turned to Eleanor, desperate. Mom, you're really going to let them do this? Eleanor exhaled, slow and tired. You did this to yourself. Melissa's voice cracked. I'm your daughter. And Ryan is my son-in-law. Eleanor replied calmly. You treated him like garbage while draining his wallet. She sighed. I've excused you for years, Melissa, but this is where I stop. Melissa turned to Jenna next. You can't be serious. You're picking him over me? Jenna didn't blink. He's my husband, and more decent than you've ever been. And just like that, the final pillar crumbled. Melissa turned to me, her voice barely a whisper. You set me up. I smiled. No, Melissa, you set yourself up. The officer stepped forward. Final chance, are you paying, or are we escorting you out? Her lip trembled, her shoulders shook. For once in her life, Melissa had no comeback. And then, she ran. Her heels echoed as she fled across the marble floor, shoving past stunned guests. Laughter followed her, cameras flashed. David just shook his head. One officer turned. Should we pursue? The manager waved him off. We have her details, she'll be hearing from us. I took a deep breath, finally exhaling the weight of the night. Melissa was gone. And for the first time in years, peace returned. I finally felt like I belonged. Melissa was gone, but the chaos she'd unleashed still lingered. The air buzzed with murmurs, tension hanging like smoke after a fire. Guests whispered, phones in hand, already composing the first viral post. The once elegant banquet hall, meant to be a perfect celebration, was now marked by scandal, and honestly, I didn't feel bad. Jenna stood beside me, massaging her temples. Well, that was a disaster. Eleanor sighed. No, darling, that was long overdue. I turned to her, my chest still tight. Eleanor, She raised a hand. Don't you dare apologize. But, you did nothing wrong, she said, loud enough for others to hear. Melissa did this to herself. I'm done cleaning up her messes. I looked to Jenna, expecting conflict, but she only looked relieved. She reached for my hand and squeezed it. Ryan, I'm sorry. For what? For not stopping her sooner. For letting her treat you like trash. I should have said something years ago. I shook my head. Melissa's choices were always her own. This was inevitable. Eleanor crossed her arms. She needed this, though honestly, She gave a dry laugh. I doubt it'll change her. She'll just find someone else to blame. David chimed in from nearby. You can count on that. I turned to him. Why did you come? He shrugged. My buddy owns the place. He called when some woman started racking up a massive bill under someone else's name. I knew it had to be her. Jenna groaned. She's allergic to accountability. Always has been, Eleanor added. And then I saw it, something I'd never noticed in Eleanor before, exhaustion. Not from the party. From years of damage control. Melissa had drained her too. The next morning, the fallout began. Melissa called Eleanor 7 times, then Jenna, then me. None of us picked up. Then came the texts. You've ruined my life. You turned the whole family against me. I hope you're happy. I was. By noon, social media had already erupted. Someone filmed everything, the cops, the bill, Melissa's dramatic exit. It spread like wildfire. Rich woman tries to dine and dash at family party. Caught red-handed, $22,000 restaurant scam. When you think you're the main character and karma shows up. It was brutal. And I loved every second of it. By dinner, the final blow landed. David texted Jenna. She got fired. I actually laughed. Wait, seriously? Jenna blinked at her phone. David says her job saw the video, called her in, fired her for being a PR nightmare. Eleanor sipped her tea. Good. That's when it hit me. Melissa was finished. Not just embarrassed, ruined. No job. No support. And no family left to bail her out. She'd spent her life believing she was untouchable, that no matter what, someone would pick up the pieces. But now? She had no one. At 7:42 p.m., she rang our doorbell. Jenna stood beside me, arms crossed. You're actually opening that? I smirked. Why not? Let's see how far she's fallen. I opened the door. Melissa looked wrecked. Hair unbrushed, makeup streaked, eyes swollen from crying. She shoved past me without a word, storming into the living room like she still owned the place. You set me up, she hissed. I closed the door behind her. No, Melissa, you did this. She turned on me, voice trembling. You humiliated me, you made me look like a criminal. Jenna laughed coldly. You were acting like one. You tried to stick us with a $22,000 bill. Melissa turned to her sister. Oh, please, you betrayed me too. Jenna didn't flinch. No, I just stopped pretending you were a decent person. Melissa's hands trembled. You think this is funny, watching me lose everything? I stepped forward. You mean the job you lied to get? The respect you never earned? The family you abused? She looked away. I made a mistake. I kept my voice calm. You made years of them, and now that you're the one getting humiliated, you want forgiveness? I need time to fix this. Jenna cut in. Fix what? Your image? Or the damage you caused to everyone who trusted you? Melissa flinched. Then, finally, the mask cracked. I don't know who I am without this family. Jenna shook her head. And that's exactly the problem. You treated us like pawns, not people. Melissa's voice broke. So that's it? One mistake and I'm out? I looked her dead in the eye. This wasn't one mistake. This was who you are. She let out a broken breath. I thought, no matter what, I'd still have you. Jenna's voice was quiet, but final. You did, and you lost us. Melissa's shoulders sagged, her whole frame deflated. She turned to Jenna. What do I do now? Jenna glanced at me, then back at her. That's not our problem anymore. Melissa stared at us both. Then she turned and walked out the door. And just like that, she was gone. A year later, everything had changed. Jenna and I were stronger than ever. Without Melissa stirring chaos, peace finally settled in. Eleanor stopped apologizing for her daughter. She still loved her, but she no longer enabled her. And Melissa? She tried to start over. Got a new job. A quiet life. But she never reached out. Not to Jenna. Not to Eleanor. Not to me. And that was fine. Because here's what I learned. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. Support. Love returned. And Melissa? She was never really family. She just thought she was the main character in a story that never belonged to her.